Hi everybody, I'm Tim Donnelly, voice of the Charlotte Rush, and we are post-game on this Sunday afternoon, October the 16th, following the Charlotte Rush Elite Team very impressive 9-1 victory over the Potomac Patriots here in the Elite matchup. And as always, we are joined post-game by the head coach and general manager of the Charlotte Rush, Ryan Crothers. And Ryan, you followed up that 11-2 win yesterday with a 9-1 win again today. Equally pleased with what your club did?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think we got off to a bit of a slow start again, 1-0 after the first. But I still liked our game. I think the biggest thing that we took from this weekend is we didn't let any bad habits creep in. Sometimes when you play an opponent like this, guys start to think it's point night and do individual things. I didn't see that creep into our game at all. I would have liked to see us stay out of the box a little more. 9 penalties against. So that's something we have to clean up. I know you can't live on the penalty kill all game. Then you get the same guys going out there. They start to get fatigued. It also gives the other team a better opportunity to score. So the only negative out of this weekend was our penalty trouble. But I loved our compete level. I loved the way that we played for a full 60 minutes. So very happy. Now I feel like that's 4 very good games played in a row. So we have some momentum now going to Atlanta.
Well, again, Matthew Headland had a hat trick last night. He gets 2 more goals, and those were just pretty goals, Ryan. That one that he roofed top shelf, that was just a beauty. This kid really has some skill. He knows how to finish.
Yeah, he's a dynamic player. He's definitely a top player out of the Northwood School last year. He's a player that Great Britain wants on their World Junior team. Played in World Juniors last year. He's definitely a huge asset to our team. Does a great job playing center. He plays both ends of the ice. His speed is very deceptive, and he can score goals.
Nick Izagari back in the Rush lineup today, as well as Tyler Bessner. Let's talk about Tyler Bessner first. He wasted no time, Ryan, impressing you with a goal and 2 assists very early on. He had a great game for us in his first game ever for the Charlotte Rush.
Yeah, it always looks good when you make a trade and the guy performs the way that you expect him to. But we spoke a little bit this morning. I wanted him to bring a certain type of game, and I thought he did that. He played on the edge, which he can do, but he also finished. Like, we need him on the ice to score goals, and he did that today. I think he finished with 3 or 4 points. That's a great first start in a Rush uniform. Very pleased to have him. He's been great in the locker room. He's been great putting in the extra work. He knows what it takes. He knows he wants to get to the next level. So very happy with Bessner. I thought that whole line of Izagiri, Bomarito, and Bessner, that's a special dynamic line. And excited to see what they can do moving forward.
So Nick and Tyler are friends now, is that it?
Yeah, after the fight, they actually, Nick went and picked him up after we traded for him the following day. So they had a nice awkward car ride on the way home after their fight and trade, but I think that helps build character. You know, one thing I did before the trade was I pulled my captains aside and said, before I make this trade, I want to make sure that you think you can fit in our locker room. We have great chemistry in that room right now, and I didn't want to mess with it. And they all said, let's jump at the opportunity to grab a Tyler Bessner, which shows me I got a special group in there with special leaders that understand he could be a huge asset to our team. They went, drove, picked him up, and welcomed him with open arms. And when you do that, it allows you to play better. And I think Tyler Bessner felt warm. He felt comfortable in this environment, and it showed on the ice today. So I give credit to our team and our leadership for taking him in and making sure that he's a part of our family now.
And that is a sign of a good coach who doesn't just look at the stats and look at the score sheet, but figures out, hey, how's this going to affect my locker room? So Ryan, heads up for that, and I'm so glad that the captains came in and said, yeah, we think this guy will fit in, and he paid some very early dividends for you today. Let's talk about what I think is a good surprise for you. You know, we've got a star-studded lineup offensively, but you got a couple of goals from guys that don't normally score, Andrew Williamson and Richard Doherty. They each pitched in with a goal today.
Yeah, it's nice to see those guys get rewarded. You know, they're workhorses, they're shutdown guys, they're physical guys, hard to play against. Move pucks to our forwards where those guys get the glory for putting it in the back of the net. But those two work extremely hard day in and day out. In practice, they block shots, they finish their hits. And for them to show up on the score sheet, I think it's a nice reward for them. So very happy with those guys, very happy with our D-core this weekend.
Couple of more quick questions for Ryan Crothers, the head coach of the Charlotte Rush Elite Team and also the general manager of the Charlotte Rush. Brendan Brawley getting another start today. Ryan, critique his play.
I thought he played well. I thought he played well for the shots that he was tested on. He came up and made the saves. You know, 1 goal against, it's not bad. He's undefeated now. He's played extremely well. He's just, with our goaltending depth, it's great. It's a great problem to have. And it's no different than the forwards and the defense. We're a deep team. This makes my life a lot harder, but it's a great, great problem to have. So Brendan, John, and Jordan are phenomenal goaltenders. They're competing now. I think the compete level in practice has gone up a ton. They're trying to make saves that sometimes goalies give up on in practice, which is now forcing our forwards and our D to bear down on their shots. So we have a great problem, and that's our work ethic and practice and compete level has been risen for guys so they can get in the lineup. So happy with our crease. Anytime you sit your starting goalie, who is Jordan Severo, for 2 games and you get 2 wins, you got to be very happy. And that's 3 in a row without Jordan in the net. So I'm very happy, and again, making my job a lot harder.
Having depth at the goaltender position is certainly very key. I think there was this guy named Murray that had to play for the Pittsburgh Penguins last year when Marc-Andre Fleury went out, and you saw how that depth paid off for Pittsburgh. That's
yeah, it's very, very important. You know, he stepped in and did well. I think you could say the same thing about Chicago Blackhawks when Scott Darling had to step in for Crawford. So again, you never know what's going to happen, and you can't. Right now, it's tough for a lot of guys. We haven't really suffered too many injuries, knock on wood, but those things start to creep in as you get later into the season. So it's important we have the depth. It's important those guys stay hungry and they stay healthy and they stay happy. That's the biggest thing, you know, and they understand this thing's a process. So very happy with our group right now on and off the ice. I think we'll continue to get better, and the chips will fall where they may for our players.
Ryan, by the way, you brought up a great name, Scott Darling, the backup to Corey Crawford in Chicago. He is not only an former ECHL player, he's a former Southern Professional Hockey League player, and there's a real big story about how that guy can play at that level and somehow rise to the NHL. It doesn't always happen like that, but he's one of those guys.
Yeah, I had the privilege to play with him in Reading on one of his stops throughout the minor leagues, so very happy for a guy like that. He's done a lot, he's gone through a lot. To see him rise to that, win a few Stanley Cups, I'm very, very happy for him.
Last question for head coach Ryan Crothers of the Charlotte Rush Elite team. Okay, we got a couple big games in Atlanta coming up. The competition is going to certainly rise this coming weekend. Preview the Junior Knights and what you can expect from them this coming weekend.
With the Knights, you always get a hard-working team. We're playing them on the road. They're very good at home. It's a tough building to play in as an opposing team. But they have some depth too, and they have some guys that can score, and they're very well coached. They have a great coaching staff over there that always has them prepared. So we have to make sure we put this weekend, these 2 wins behind us, and move forward on Tuesday. This is going to be a very tough week of practice. Atlanta tends to be very physical. They're up in your face, so we got to make sure we're preparing ourselves this week in practice. They're a huge weekend for us. If you look at the standings now, with the Hampton loss today to Carolina, we're 2 points back right now in first place. That's our ultimate goal. We created a little bit of separation from Carolina, not enough to feel warm and fuzzy, but enough that it's going to push us. And our main goal is to get to first place. So we can only control our own destiny. So for us, it's going to Atlanta and trying to get 4 points.
Again, the Rush record now 11-2-1 for 23 points in a big series coming up in Atlanta. Ryan, thanks so much for the great comments, and we're going to check back with you and Trevor this coming Wednesday. We have our midweek TV report.
Thank you for having me, Tim.
All right, that is Ryan Crothers, the head coach of the Charlotte Rush Elite team and the general manager. Come back often to our Charlotte Rush Hockey website for all kinds of updated information. And of course, please check out our social media platforms on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Back Wednesday for our midweek chat. This is Tim Donnelly, voice of the Charlotte Rush, and thanks so much for watching.